Okay, we're going to finish up chapter or lesson 4-5 of our pre-calculus book, and we're going to do examples 7 and 8. And we're going to be looking at solving quadratic equations where we end up with complex roots for our solution. Remember that when you graph quadratic functions, that you could either get two solutions or one solution, or sometimes you don't get any solutions. And when we don't get any solutions, that means that the graph does not hit the x-axis. And so we're going to go ahead and use this equation here, 2x squared plus x plus 3 equals 0. And you notice that it says to find all solutions. So that means they could be real or non-real. And so first I look to see if I can factor it. And I know with 2x squared plus x plus 3, I cannot do that. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and use the quadratic formula. So I've first of all written down what a, b, and c are, 2, 1, and 3. And they've written down the quadratic formula, so we're going to go ahead and plug those in and solve. So we get -1, and I like to pull it apart, so we get -1 over 2 times 2, plus or minus the square root of 1 squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2 times a. So this is -1/4 plus or minus the square root of, and we get 1 squared minus 4 times 2 is 8 times 3 is 24, so we get 1 minus 24, which is -23 over 4. So my answer would be -1/4 plus or minus, and since we have the square root of a negative number, we take the negative out and we make that an I. And so there's our solution to this problem, that x equals -1/4 plus or minus square root of 23 over 4i. And since we got I in our solution, that means it was a complex number, and if I showed it on the graph, it would not intersect the x-axis. So then we're going to look at example 8, which is another solving equations. And we want to find all the solutions for this equation. So to do that, the first thing we need to do is set it equal to 0. Well, now we have the difference of 2 cubes. And we've done factoring of difference of 2 cubes and sum of 2 cubes before. And if you notice, I've put on here a little note for you that says that this shows it in the inside cover of your book. You can see where the factoring is taking place. And I have it right here for you also. So we'll go ahead and show the factoring here. And first we have x is cubed, and then 1 is cubed. And then we take the first thing and square it, so x squared plus multiply x and 1 together, we get x, and square 1 and we get 1. So here we have two factors to solve in this equation. And the first factor here, x minus 1, that'll give us a solution of 1, so I'll say that x equals 1. And then we're going to get two solutions from our quadratic here. The only thing is that these solutions are going to be non-real or complex, so we can either take the quadratic formula again or complete the square. And I think I'll complete the square this time, so you can take a look at that. So we take and we set it up, so we have x squared plus x plus 1 equals 0. And a reminder, when we complete the square, we always want to get the constant to the other side. So we're going to subtract 1 from both sides, so we get -1 on the right. And then when we're completing the square, means we're going to take half of the value of b, so half of the coefficient of x, which is 1, and we're going to cut it in half and square it. So that means we're going to write it down here as half of 1 is 1/2 squared, which means then I'm going to add 1/2 squared is 1/4 to both sides. Or what I do to one side, I have to do to both. So then we get -1 plus 1/4, which is -3/4. So we take the square root of both sides then. And we get x plus 1/2 equals plus or minus, don't forget the plus or minus, the square root of -3 over 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. And then we subtract 1/2 from both sides. So we get x equals negative 1/2 plus or minus. And we have the square root of negative 3, so that means we have the square root of 3 over 2, and that negative becomes an I. So we have our solution then is going to be, show here, we have x equals 1 and negative 1/2 plus or minus the square root of 3 over 2i. And that would be our solution then to this problem. Let's get a little smiley out of there. Let's send him down. All right, so we have found from example 7, solutions to a quadratic equation. And number 8, we have a cubic equation here that we can also find all the solutions for that, real and non-real.